Hello and welcome everyone to week 2 of FOF Esports Heroic League. My name is Josh with Joshi Howard and I'm joined by another Josh, but his name is Anti. How are you doing today, Anti?
Hello. I'm doing quite well myself. Now I'm joined by yet another Josh.
Woo.
And right now we do have A24 versus Team Wash. Hold on.
We're gonna have to fight about that team name a bit.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a bunch of different ways how to explain their name. But I don't know. I've always liked A24 because there's supposed to be 24 A's in that name.
Yeah, but there's very clearly far fewer than them. But we're well into the draft underway. It is worth noting that Team AAA is running a substitute in the bottom lane. They're not going to be playing with their traditional support, Rare Adam, who played for them throughout the first week. They are instead going to be substituting in Vexrax. And I don't know a whole lot about Vexrax, but so far the way that this team has been playing has been very focused on giving XT all kinds of crazy picks. And this Karthus, which has been tearing up the amateur scene, is their first pick.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a little bit of insider information. I will say, Vexrax, we might not have very much information about them, but Vexrax also has just straight up never played with MXL ever.
Oh. That is worth noting, right? They won't have the same kind of synergy that we've seen from a lot of other teams, but already Team Wash coming out swinging with a very different style coming into their composition. I was a little bit critical of the way that GodX Anime was playing through the first week. I didn't feel like he really understood his role in a lot of teams, and this is a situation where it feels as though it's going to be very imperative that he understands how to play this Volibear up against Team AAA, but also alongside the Seraphine. It's one thing to be diving on the Volibear, it's something entirely different to be making sure your backline stays alive.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I will also note, Team AAA, Team A4, Team A24, however it is you want to call their team, they have gotten that Karthus, first pick, blue side, blind completely. But there are no doubts in my mind that is going straight to XT.
Yeah.
Right? So, once again, XT going to be on a very comfortable jungler. The Volibear does get picked up in response, but like you were mentioning earlier, right? The Volibear, while a very effective champion, it's not so simple as a just plug and play. You do have to put some thought in as to how you want to play around it.
Yeah, and I kind of think back to when you and I were talking about trying to come up with a roster for FOF, and we had you playing a Volibear game, I was playing on the Seraphine, and we had to have a little bit of a talk on how we needed the Volibear to play. When you have the Zyra, when you have the Seraphine, these champions really, really like fights that are mostly stationary, whereas Volibear tends to like to go forward, and so Team Wash is going to have to control that. But so far, they've picked some very strong lanes. The Zyra will do quite well into a Mumu. You can block the bandage tosses. You can poke them out because they're a melee champion, and this will give a lot of priority over to Team Wash in the bottom lane in order to help what I'm assuming is GodX Anime on the Volibear.
Yeah, and one other thing that we do want to note, Team Wash has thrown so many bans at Jaffe,
Yes.
right? That's the Aura ban, which Jaffe played to an extremely high proficiency in the last week against Tatas. The Mordekaiser and the Gangplank. Now, Mordekaiser might not necessarily be something that Jaffe plays too much, but PJ's been having a lot of trouble with Mordekaiser lately. You know, that's been 2 Mordekaiser games that PJ has had to play into, and twice has PJ not been able to really deal with it. And the Jhin going to be picked up on the bot lane here, which means that Team Wash is going to need some kind of DPS somewhere.
I mean, they have a lot of damage depending on what kind of build the Seraphine goes for, right? Zyra just kind of gets a ton of damage all at once. My biggest worry now is because AAA haven't picked either of the solo laners, this is an opportunity for them to pick a couple of very tanky champions and make Erebus's job on this Jhin that much more difficult. Instead, as they end up picking up this Yone, going over to what I'm assuming is going to be esports demos going into the mid lane, it is going to be something that can be very challenging for the Seraphine to deal with. And as they continue to build up some of the lane prio for XT, they will have a little bit more freedom to try and help them out. And so Team Wash have a very kind of composition that doesn't necessarily function as a single unit, despite the fact that they early picked the Seraphine.
Yeah, I mean, and also interestingly enough, you know, A24 are going to be picking up the Aatrox to round out that draft, which I believe should be able to get priority into most things that PJ has proficiency playing. So, you know, the Karthus should be just fine, you know, sitting in the jungle, gonna just continue to farm up. But this final pick here for PJ could round out this team, and I don't know about the Malphite pick.
It's definitely interesting, right? You are picking this big tank up. There's a fair amount of physical damage coming out from AAA, but it really paints a big problem with XT on this Karthus, right? The Malphite's not going to be getting a whole lot of priority into Aatrox and is going to be threatened by the fact that Aatrox is a manaless champion. And so it feels as though the top side coming in for AAA will have a lot of impact on this opening game.
Yeah, and you know, Malphite did just recently get buffed, so the W goes like significantly faster cooldown as you put more levels into it, but only time will tell whether or not PJ is going to actually be able to make use of that buff.
And so, as we're getting ready to load onto the Rift, what are your predictions so far we got this time, Anti?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I think Team AAA's got a pretty solid idea for what they want to do with their team, right? You know, so they have the early priority in the lane, so as long as XT can get fed, and for Karthus to get fed in the jungle, all he actually has to do is exist for long enough, right? Because you eventually hit that critical Karthus mass where he hits ultimate and your team has half of their health bars available. But, you know, if he can get to that point, it's become so much harder for Team Wash to be able to deal with that. So I find it a little bit difficult to see how Team Wash is going to be maneuvering around this.
Well, my big thing as I start looking at it is it's going to depend entirely based on how long this game goes, right? Team Wash have a huge wake up around the 1 to 1.5 item mark, right? All of their characters are going to be online. That is when Seraphine is at their strongest, and this is before a lot of the healing is going to be coming through for demos and Jaffe on the Aatrox and the Yone, right? This is when they're going to have to dive into the Zyra, and that's going to be the biggest obstacle for AAA to actually try and win the game. But if they get past that, if they can build up leads early on, then suddenly the Yone Aatrox dive is unstoppable by anything that Seraphine and Zyra are going to be doing. The XT on the Karthus is going to be impossible for them to deal with, and so Team Wash is going to have to demonstrate that they can build up leads in the mid game. And considering how many dragons they've gotten in their last 2 games, it is something that they can potentially win.
Yeah, and Godix Anime has been so good at controlling not only the map, but just the pace of these games. So it's a question of, you know, can you get that same kind of strength with the Volibear? And all right, you know, with the attack Volibear, with the flash, should be nothing new, nothing super fancy as far as we're concerned here. But I mean, standard 5-point from both teams.
I want to kind of lean into some of the expertise that you and I have, right? You were the Helios MVP back in Season 4. I was, unfortunately, the runner-up. We like to think that we're pretty good top laners relative to the heroic field. We also got some pretty strong top laners coming through. Jaffe, while he wasn't in our league, he was playing over in the Luna League, was generally feared as one of the strongest top laners there for a long time. He's been on so many teams throughout the FOF seasons, and now he's going up against PJ Salt, who has had some great performances, but both of these top laners, I feel, have been rather inconsistent. I feel as though PJ Salt and Jaffe both have games where they just absolutely pop off, and games where you ask, oh, wait, were they in that game again?
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, as far as I'm concerned, Jaffe is actually, incredibly consistently inconsistent. But PJ is actually a very, very consistent top laner.
Okay.
Right? So PJ's performance is entirely hinging on how comfortable he is on the champion. On the champions where he's really comfortable, like Dr. Mundo, like Urgot, that's where you really start to see PJ shine. But if you start putting PJ on, those fringe champions, like, those second, third string picks where you really not have that much practice on, that's when PJ gets a little bit more questionable with these picks, right? Like the Olaf into the Mordekaiser, like last week that we saw, or something like the Malphite. I'm not 100% sure how much we're really going to be seeing PJ perform here.
Yeah, it's definitely not a champion that I generally think of when I think of PJ Salt, and it is a bit of a tougher matchup. And again, we always have to look at the fact that one of the easiest ways to attack Malphite is to attack his mana pool. If you're able to go in and be aggressive with the sustain on the Aatrox, it can make PJ Salt's life very difficult.
Yeah, and
oh shit, I'm play by play.
Yeah, no worries. PJ gonna be able to get a decent trade off early here, and like you said earlier, right? Malphite, you really want to be able to attack his mana bar, and Aatrox doesn't have any mana bar to speak of, and while PJ's been able to get quite a good amount of early poke, it's not until around level 5 where those Qs are really going to start hurting enough to make a real dent.
And now while we kind of wait for the top lane to kind of shake out, we'll take another look at the top lane in a couple minutes. The other players that I kind of want to draw our attention to is in the bottom lane, because I feel as though both Erebus and MXL have been performing quite well. And Erebus, one of the things that I was saying is if he was a little bit more patient, he'd be so much better. But XT, coming around, is going to be zoning off God X Anime, has completed all 6 camps, and will prevent any action in the bottom lane.
Yeah, that was really well timed from XT, going to be able to just scout out that early gank. Also, the fact that XT was able to finish all 6 camps as Godix Anime had just finished camp number 5 was actually incredibly impressive. That's that Karthus coming in clutch there. And right now, just going to continue to return to the jungle, back to his old habitat, and farm up as much as he wants.
Yeah, and credit to GodX Anime, right? Even with the lack of priority he's had on the top side, he will be able to pick up both Scuttle Crabs, and this is the pressure that XT is going to put on the game, right? Oh, GodX Anime, he's just hovering around. He thinks he can take this fight, but he doesn't know that he's walking into multiple people, and Pure Llama doesn't have the mana to actually take this fight. Just as I was praising him, XT coming in to take away the crab, and this is the pressure that XT will put on. He will out-farm you, and he will always claim he's going to be better than you in the late game.
Yeah, I mean, while that was a phenomenal grab by XT to deny that double scuttle, we also had to give props to Jaffe for being able to get the early prio and knowing to roam down for that scuttle crab, right? The only reason why Godix Anime knows that there's no way that he can really contest that scuttle is because it's not just a 2v2, it's a 2v3.
He's coming into the mid lane right now. GodX Anime going for the play into Demos, but Demos has the knockup, will put himself under turret, and even with the root coming through, GodX Anime not able to find a first gank that'll work. He was countered in the bottom lane by XT, and now in the mid lane, Demos just gets out cleanly.
Yeah, and Llama might have been able to start the tier in order to try to deal with some of those mana issues, but only tiers right now are Llama not going to be able to pick up any kills or really do anything too much early in this laning phase. 34 CS getting closer and closer to the threshold.
Jaffe,
hold on.
The flash, the auto attack is going to be enough. PJ Salt goes down, and Jaffe looking to be flipping the heads in this game. The consistency is starting to come out in this Aatrox.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying earlier that Jaffe is consistently inconsistent, and Team, AA's bot lane has also been one of those wild cards that's consistently inconsistent, and it seems that this is going to be one of those 20-0 games, not one of those
Yeah.
0-20 games.
You got to
All
think
right.
back to what we saw from Jaffe coming in last week. He was playing Fiora against Tadeus's Ornn, and they had so much pressure in the game. You remember that number of times he went in for a 1v4 underneath the enemy structures in the enemy base. But now XT is walking down into the bottom lane. Godex Anime is here. They're looking for Vexrax. The slow comes through. The stun is there. Root is there. They're picking them up, and Vexrax, a substitute coming in. Got to be the first one going down.
Yeah, I mean, MXL does not have access to Rare Adam, the phenomenal support player that we saw last week. But, while this Amumu has been putting out as much pressure as you can really ask for a Amumu and a Jhin Zyra lane, that was a phenomenal gank coming out from Goddess Anime, even with XT in the wings.
Yeah. Not able to do anything, and because of that, it is going to be this first dragon getting picked up by Washed right away. This has been something that they've been good at, right? They got 4 dragons direct to the Dragon Soul, but it's not a game without Bill the Pony, right? There's always going to be 7 dragons that end up coming through in his games, and now, as they already get the first one, we'll see how long this game actually goes. The longer the game goes, the more it's going to be favoring Team AAA, but remember, Washed, all their champions are going to be coming to online relatively soon. As Vex goes in, not going to be landing the stun. Demos will have to walk away, and it's just going to be an economy ult coming through for XT.
Yeah, that's First Strike going to be able to start pulling in quite a bit of gold. But, credits to Vexrax going to be with that roam up into the mid lane. A lot of the supports in this league right now, they do struggle with having that map-wide pressure. And the fact that you showed up mid lane once already tells the enemy team, hey, I'm willing to make these roams. So they constantly have to be thinking about that. Increases your opponent's mental stack. Very good attempt by the Amumu here.
Yeah, I'm also very impressed by the way that Jaffe is holding PJ Salt underneath the turret, constantly just going for these darkened blades to get that little bit of extra damage, push PJ Salt underneath the turret, and PJ Salt, out of corrupting potion stacks, will not be able to heal up from the rest of the damage that Jaffe's doing, and he is so close. If he had flash, this could very easily be a dead Malphite. He's got to be careful. We saw Pure Lava and Godex Anime cheating towards the top side, but they're not able to support him, and this wave is perfect for Jaffe.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the pings on the side of Team Wash are actually heading towards the bot lane right now. So they're just looking to see what they can do. They know that PJ's in a rough position. They're trying to make those cross-map plays. But right now, MXL looking to take that blue buff. Not quite able to do it, but, a little bit cheeky of an arcane shot there.
Yeah, Godex Anime wasn't even on the blue buff. I do like the idea, not going to be meaning a whole lot, but look at this on the other side of the map. While Godex Anime is still struggling to keep up with XT and Farm, still trying to find an effective first gank, it's Jaffe who's going to be on the top side, starting up the Rift Herald all alone. Remember, this is worth more gold on recent patches. It will be able to get you the same kind of results later on, but XT's not here to support him, and nobody on Wash is able to react to him at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the strengths of top lane, right? If you get to the point where you can just force your enemy top laner under tower, force them back, and you know where the enemy jungler is, that Rift Herald 100% yours. But either way, Vexrax in a lot of trouble.
Comes out from Zyra. That's a lot of damage, and no flash on the Amumu means he goes down a second time. Great burst coming out from Erebus and Bill the Pony, and now they're going to reward themselves with a play.
Yeah, and we saw this last week where Erebus was getting incredibly strong on that Kog'Maw. This time going to be piloting the Jhin, though, which, while Jhin does output a lot of damage in the late game if he can get into range, it's so difficult for him to safely do it, especially into a team like this.
Godex Anime at the same time looking for a gank into the mid lane, hasn't been able to find his successful entry into the game. The only time he's had an opportunity to find a kill was in the bot lane that picked up Vexrax the first time. But Pure Llama once again running himself out of mana, not on the Lost Chapter just quite yet. And Godex Anime, I mean, we alluded to this before, XT is so far ahead in farm, and Godex Anime doesn't realize he might be potentially walking into a 2v3.
Yeah, meanwhile, Jaffe just continuing to bully PJ in this top lane, just kind of looking to get this wave in to drop that Herald, get a bunch more gold off those tower plates. But the more and more that this lane phase goes on, that Eclipse that's coming out from Jaffe here is going to be able to get so much value.
And you're seeing that Wash is trying to respond to it. This is where PJ Salt starts crying. You and I both know it. It's a top lane experience. When I can't do anything, he's freezing me off the wave. So bring up the jungler. 3v1 going on to Jaffe. He pops the World Ender, trying to get out. But look at the sustain already coming through. The ultimate from Karthus is not going to be enough. But Jaffe is barely almost able to get away. Not going to do it. And the True Shot Barrage misses as well. They finally shut down Jaffe.
Yeah, a great shutdown onto Jaffe, and the True Shot Barrage was so incredibly close. MXL has had a lot of these close calls. I feel like each one is getting closer and closer, though, right? You know, it's just that calibration here. But PJ with some a much needed. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, not going to quite find the actual ultimate. Not going to get the knock-up. They are going to be able to walk away.
Yeah, with as I was saying earlier, right? You know, PJ, a much needed break, going to be able to pick up. You know, just a little bit of gold, just a crumb of gold to try to get that tanky Malphite that this team really, really needs. But oh my god, Vexrax not in the great positions.
The ult comes out. The curtain call is here. It should be easily blocked by MXL, and MXL is going to be standing in the right spot. No more should come through. Arcane shifts away, but this is at a great time. They use the ultimate to chunk him out, and they are in a perfect position to pick up the next dragon. Washed, again, has been quite good at getting these first couple of dragons, but they're not able to pull AAA into open battle. And so while the two dragons have already gone over, it is giving a 1,000 gold lead already over to AAA.
Yeah, I mean, that it's one of the things that we've seen from other teams. Like, for example, T1 has...
Hold on. XG's coming up. There's a potential gank, a potential dive. The Wall of Pain goes through. The magic resistance is shredded, but they're not going to be committing to the play. But now they have demos up here. 3 people are here. PJ Soul needs to try and turn this around. The flash is up, but he gets the turnaround. He takes down XT, but it's not going to be enough to save him, as we see all the members of AAA come up, and now it's not over. Demos has to find his way out. They don't have ults. Jaffe so low. No World Ender just quite yet. They're trying to find Demos. He's still got the flash. They're trying to turn around. Godix Anime so low. Demos goes back in. Almost going to be getting the last bit off of the E, but it's not going to be enough. The healing on the Volibear is too much. Seraphine's there as well, but it's blood all across the map, and now MXL trying to go 1v1 up against Erebus. He gets it with the last bit of damage. The bouncing grenade picks him up.
And just like that, we were saying earlier that Team AAA just had a very solid, you know, small 1k gold lead despite dropping those first 2 dragons. And for some reason, I don't understand how they managed to find that window, but Team Wash going to be able to just force that game straight open. Said, oh, you know, we got all the objectives that we wanted. We do happen to be falling a bit behind in gold, but what if we just go ahead and pick some gold up? Right?
It's all about the fighting on the one items when you start getting these wake-ups to come through at the right time. And look at this. Well, XT goes for another economy ult, gets 5 members, about 200 gold getting picked up by the first strike. Jaffe also being forced to use the Rift Herald back in base. He picked it up before, and with this wave push so far in, PJ Salt should be able to stop it. This shouldn't get any more value for Team AAA, as Bill the Pony is already here to try and stop it. But as soon as I say that, they're walking away. Jaffe trying to get this underneath the turret, gets some decent damage down on PJ Salt, and as he tries to sustain his way through this, the Rift Herald is still in question, but without plates, you know, you're not going to be getting the same kind of mileage out of it.
Yeah, but right now, despite PJ being able to pick up a decent bit of gold in those last few fights, Jaffe is the one sitting with the completed mythic. That Eclipse is going to be doing so much damage and doing so much work for this Aatrox here. You can see it already coming into play here. Meanwhile, PJ might have like the completed boots, might have the Bramble Vest completed, but Jaffe's not losing out on these fights because of healing. And Jaffe's not winning out on these fights because of healing. Jaffe's winning out on these fights because he's just continually poking down in the lane. It's not a matter of the full all-ins where that's the difference makers.
And as we continue to see Wash try and look for an opportunity to play, the big player that I want to look at right now is Erebus. He's a player that, despite the losses that Wash have had so far, has been crucial to a lot of the team fights. The Kog'Maw play that he was having before was saving the game, and now he's on the Jhin. This is his time that he's spiking. He's not going to be continuing to build up later and later into the game. He needs to find his fights now, and we're already seeing he moves out of his lane. He goes with Godix Anime. They have to try and find something here, and XT XT going for the gank at the worst time.
Oh.
They're looking for Pure Llama. They jump on top of him, but the counter stuns come through. The ults are there. They instantly find 2 kills, and Wash just crushing in this mid game.
Yeah, and once again, you know, XT just seems to be in a place where, you know, it looks like it could be the right place at the right time, but more specifically, it's just always when the enemy jungler also happens to be there. But this time, Godix Anime decided to bring some extra friends. So it's not just one extra body, but Jaffe looking to get a little bit of extra poke here, not going to get punished for it, not going to get too much out of it. But the Herald will be going over to Team Wash right now.
And so we are seeing Wash, they're really coming together at the right time. It's unclear to me if Wash was trying to stop a gank in the mid lane. I'm pretty sure they were just bringing people up to go for the Rift Herald. And this just feels like a bit of a better understanding of Wash, of how their composition works, right? Godix Anime, even though he wasn't able to get a lot of successful ganks off early game, has really come alive in the mid game. The Volley Bears have been having a huge impact thus far, and just being able to lock down one person and stun them and allow all the follow-up crowd control from his team to take them down.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to take a look at some of these item breakpoints, right? You know, we were talking about it. You were talking about it earlier, where some of these, you know, the side of Team Wash, right? When you have that one item, those 1.5 item points, you know, that's where you really want to be fighting on this comp, right? Because Seraphine just outputs so much damage. Jhin, so incredibly strong once you get that 1 item, 2 item, sometimes even 3 item power spikes if you're far ahead enough. Malphite still has not finished the Mythic, but Malphite's always going to be useful as long as you have the R key on your keyboard available.
Yeah, and so we see Wash, they take control of the river, but they're giving a lot of ground. We will see the members of AAA able to move into the river, but this is the spot where I feel like AAA have to give up this dragon. They're going to try and find their way back in, but it's a front to back, but now Demo's trying to come around the side. The ultimate only
huge ultimate.
Vextrax in the middle. The ultimate from Karth is interrupted, but Demos is on the back line. Pure Llama and Erebus running for the hills, and they try and find their way out, but they haven't lost any numbers yet. XT goes back in. The passive is perfectly used by XT one more time, but Godix Anime finding another kill, and so far it's a 2v3 already coming through. We are seeing a small team fight win from Wash, but Jaffe still alive and well, gets rooted, gets stunned. All the members, there's so much crowd control, he can't even get under the back line of Wash, and he just goes down from full HP. The turnaround, all the core of Team Wash standing up strong, and now they should be able to pick up this mountain dragon.
Yeah, and it was looking so good for both teams, honestly. Like, it was still completely winnable for the side of Team AAA there. And unfortunately, Jaffe just greeds out a little bit for that ward as Vextrax now in the wings, just looking to see if they can do some kind of hero play with Demos here. Yone just puts out so much damage, still has the ulti.
Right on top, Pure Llama going down so quickly. Erebus trying to deal the damage back, but PJ Salt's the one who comes in, is able to get the little bit of a slap, and they are still hitting this dragon. XT is too far away, not going to be able to get the smite, and 3 consecutive dragons already going over to Watch, using their power spikes beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the beginning of the game. Oh my god, Demos.
Yeah, trying to find their way over, will be able to just jump over the wall, but a little bit greedy trying to go for the Gromp, not punished.
Yeah, I mean, greed is good, right? You know, you got to pick up as much gold as you can, but sometimes you push a little too hard, and Team AAA seem to have pushed a little bit harder than they had bargained for. That last fight might, you know, a few things go differently that last fight. That looks significantly more different, right? If that ultimate doesn't get canceled, if XT manages to get a little bit further into the enemy team, if Jaffe doesn't stand on top of the control ward, you know, without realizing that Zyra's in the wings, then maybe that flips the other way. But unfortunately for AAA here, you know, that small gold lead they had at the beginning of the game just is basically amounting to nothing here.
Yeah, and we are seeing right now PJ Salt potentially under attack from Vextrax, but not going to be jumping in. And Jaffe, we are seeing in this mid game, based on the build that he has gone, is going to be very effective if he can get towards the back line of Erebus, build a pony, and Pure Llama. But it's not going to be nearly as effective in this mid game going up against PJ Salt, who just walks up and slaps him with his fist. And so the question right now, Anti, as we see another economy ult coming out from XT, is is the lead from Wash big enough to actually win them the next fight? Because they need to win probably 2 more fights. As you take a look at the scoreboard, they haven't picked up any turrets. Even though they are 3 dragons to 0, they're not any closer to winning the game.
Yeah, and you were saying, how are they going to make use of this lead? But if you look at the gold lead at the very least, it's only about 500. But there's so much standing gold on these turrets. PJ right now is looking for it all.
On MXL is going to be backing away. The ultimate comes through from Seraphine, and they're just hitting individual members. Vexrax barely trying to walk away. One more shot's not going to be enough. They are going to be backing away, but the turret will get picked up for Watch. They're getting themselves a little bit more map control, but it's being matched by Demos on the bottom side. Gold is still going towards AAA at the same time. And Pure Llama, I don't know if you want to go try and match that. Seraphine's not a great side laner. She's going to be clearing out the wave, and so far, it is just going to be the mid lane turret that falls. Everybody survives.
Yeah, I mean, but despite taking that tower, Team Wash are still only a few hundred gold ahead.
Yeah.
You'd expect
MXL.
a team.
MXL?
Oh,
He's just dead. One more auto attack. Erebus picks him up.
Interesting. I really don't know, like, why did MXL walk up like that? Oh, it's just greeds out a little bit for the wave, and Erebus just walks up, just doing so much damage. No flash needed, just Gale Forces right on in. That's a 5-0 Jhin. You have to respect that.
Yeah, and the way that Erebus and Build a Pony have matched up today has been fantastic. The way they're layering crowd control, Erebus' ability to hit priority targets during these fights, watching them kite together during all the team fights has gotten them a lot of the lead that they're currently looking at. And so now, once again, we always ask the question, are you going to be strong enough to beat Karthus before Karthus just shreds all of your team? And so the big question, the big place we're going to be looking at is going to be this next dragon, Mountain Soul, on the line right now for Team Wash. They are still on their 2-item power spike. This is Seraphine's strongest part of the game. And Build a Pony and Erebus, as long as they stand next to Pure Llama and keep him alive, they should be able to take control of these fights.
Yeah, I will also note, though, that XT is just a few hundred gold off of finishing that. I can't believe I forgot what it was called. It's
Shadow Flame?
Shadow Flame. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
There we go.
Yeah, but Shadow Flame, and now that it's fully completed, that does so much damage, especially against a team that has the Seraphine. But Jaffe in a lot of trouble here.
Jaffe gonna get dove. God X Anime zooms in. He has to start the fight, disables the turret, and Jaffe just layered in so much crowd control. The curtain call picks it up, and even with XT's ult, they don't find anything. But on the other side of the map, PJ Salt being forced to ult out. There's not enough damage coming out from Demos just quite yet. But just as we see Jaffe go down and the turret taken down in the top lane as well, everybody has to start looking for this dragon. And crucially, a bunch of ultimates aren't up, but they don't want the dragon. They're already starting up the Baron. Vexrax going to try and stop them, and Wasp, they go for the ultimate. They catch
huge ultimate,
and Vexrax both going down. Can MXL do anything? All of his teammates are already falling, and MXL has to run for the hills. Build a Pony takes a lot of damage, but every single member of Team Wash is still alive, and with no smite on the map, Wash can pick and choose their objectives. But Demos trying to stop something here. He's going to be jumping over the wall. Patriot Salt with no ult cannot catch him, but can the rest of Wash? They're running down toward the bottom side of the river. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to catch up to Demos, but they are in a perfect position to grab this Mountain Soul.
Yeah, and MXL just, unfortunately, you're going to be looking at that dragon. You're going to try to see if you can get that miracle steal here, but there's basically a 0% chance of it, especially with a Jhin on the enemy team. This is a hero play.
For an opportunity. They got to try and find a steal, but there's just no damage coming out from Jaffe. He gets shredded. Another kill gets picked up at PJ Salt, the only one to fall, but that's a small price to pay as they do secure the Mountain Soul, the gold lead ballooning for Wash, and they get so much extra sustain.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hero play in need of trying to save the game, but I don't feel like you really need to make those hero plays just yet, right? The game, while that is a Mountain Soul, it's not completely over. It's still doable. You just have to hold on until you can get to that late game. So, A24 double A, however it is you want to call them, please somebody find some kind of standardized way to call this team. They're just continuing to throw themselves at Team Wash, trying to find their in, but you really don't need to do that yet.
Yeah, exactly. This feels like one of the things that I was looking at with XT. Great friend Elton Muck, great producer, great team manager. If anybody is looking to try and run other broadcasts or have things that they want to do, definitely talk to this guy. He's been a staple in the amateur scene. One of the things that I always look at XT, he is so good at following up on other people's shot calling. But when he's left to his own devices, he tends to kind of go ham. This man always wants to do things. And so that's one of the big reasons why we've been seeing them struggle a little bit. The card is trying to be too active early on. And now it's set behind across the map. And as we were looking at, right, this composition is so good. If you can get the Karthus, you can get the Yone to 3-4 items, but Demos is still trying to finish his second. Everybody on the side of Wash has already completed their second, and now as they start pushing in the mid lane, it's only a matter of time before I think Wash line up and just challenge the Baron. But Jaffe doesn't find anything. They're still trying to poke around to try and find their way back in, and Wash is going to disengage.
And right now, I just feel that A24, they just need some way to really slow down the pace of this game while understanding what it is that each of their champions are really doing, right? Jaffe on this Eclipse build, it's very, very strong if you're looking to split push and draw other champions towards your team. But without a Gore Drinker, you're going to find yourself popping a lot faster in these fights than you might be anticipating. Yes, you put out a lot of damage, but you pop just the same. And with the amount of CC on the side of Team Wash, you have to be so careful.
Godx Anime potentially thinking about going for this fight. Instead, they are going to be taking down the mid lane structure, getting more pressure in the mid lane. And remember, this is some of Wash's most powerful points in the game. Seraphine's damage doesn't necessarily scale all that well beyond this point. Zyra's ultimate is her main way of interacting with this fight. And as a turret goes down, that must have been up in the top lane, we're seeing Wash transition their pressure going over towards the Baron. They have control of all of these choke points, and they need to start hitting it in order to get the members of AAA to actually contest them. They need to find fights.
Yeah, and right now, Demos just... The only fight that Demos has is with this minion wave. There's not really much damage that this Yone can do to this Malphite. No Bork, no Sunfire. You're not going for one of those tankier builds, just looking for that crit build. But until you can really get, 2 or 3 items under your belt, it's not going to do nearly enough to the super tank.
And so as we are seeing, right, we are seeing little bits of bleeding coming through for AAA, but this is not the way that Wash needs to be able to close out the game. They need to put more pressure. They need to recognize that they're the team that's still on a timer. You're seeing PJ Soul, his timer is his mana bar. He doesn't have any mana left, but he can just auto-attack trade with Demos because Demos doesn't have the damage to come through just quite yet. But the longer we wait in this lull state, the better it's going to be for AAA.
Yeah, I mean, PJ's just going to continue to try to poke down Demos, but mana bar is the really big limiter here. Jaffe just gonna hop on out as Goddess Anime. Really, really wants this.
Really chasing far, and Wash, they clear out a lot of the vision. But this is where we start asking, right? We know that the members of Wash are very, very strong. We look at the bot lane in particular. Again, Erebus, formerly known as Barbiturate, one of the players that we saw on Team Wash previously in Season 5 that helped carry them to a lot of their victories. They've also added some new players in Pure Llama and Build a Pony to the roster. And the one that I was definitely excited about was Pure Llama. He was one of the mid laners that we've had pop up in a lot of in-houses, in particular, playing in the captain's draft. And now that I've role swapped over to mid lane, one of the few players that I actually think can be a huge impact on a lot of these teams at the heroic level. He's playing on the Seraphine, and while he's had a couple of good ults, we need to see if this adjusts the way that they play across the board as they start lining up for the Baron. They still have yet to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Pure Llama. I played on a team with Pure Llama. I was on Pure Llama's team during captain's draft. Very chill individual, also very, very supportive, and really looks to play with a team here. And right now, this team needs a lot of support as they're looking at the Baron and looking at Vexrax.
Going for Vexrax, and the Moo taking so much damage. Ult doesn't come out. Flash is still available. Vexrax goes down. That might be all they need for Wash. PJ Salt's providing a screen in the mid lane, trying to buy as much time for the rest of his team who are just hitting the Baron. PJ Salt doesn't need to necessarily go for a turn as they are just backing up. Pure Llama goes for the Encore, not going to catch anybody. And now they're just going to go for the fight. XT dead instantly. GodX Anime goes back in. The ult channel to Requiem, not going to pick up anybody, but there is one. Demos finds another, a 3-4-2 already coming through, but Demos trying to find his way in, and look again, so much crowd control being layered. Erebus picks up another kill, and with Elder Dragon spawning in only 7 seconds, there's an opportunity now for Wash to try and transition their attentions to the Elder Dragon. XT is still dead.
Yeah, I mean, well, Wash's team doesn't necessarily do the highest amount of DPS to this dragon. It's so hard to steal against them with that Jhin 4th shot. Right? You know, you pair it with the smite, it's so incredibly difficult to deal with it. You know, as Erebus is just on the verge of finishing an Infinity Edge after this one.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Vexrax just looking for a hero play. I don't feel like you're not really going to get anything off of this, though.
No, not able to find anything, and it looks like all 5 members of Team Wash also pick up the Elder Dragon. They need to look for a win here because we are still seeing, it feels as though AAA is actually out fighting Wash in a lot of these engagements, right? Even with the deficit, even with champions that are weaker on their current items, they're still trading 2 for 3, and it's only after the fight has ended where we're seeing some slip-ups coming out from AAA. And so Wash, they started up the Baron, they brought a lot of people in to go for kills. I'm expecting to see a repeat of that play.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you know, the score might look like it's 9-25, but the fact that Team AAA is only down for like what 4K gold is honestly phenomenal. But the moment that Team Wash picks up this Baron, we're gonna have to see where that gold lead really goes, because that gold lead could balloon insanely fast.
Yeah, and before the recent patches to Dragons, you were generally giving Soul about a 4,000 to 5,000. I'd argue now with just the raw value of the Dragons is probably close to 6 to 7. You add that on top of the already current gold lead, we're probably looking at about a 10,000 gold lead with Elder and Baron coming out from the side of Wash. It doesn't get better than this, and I'm expecting to see them pull the trigger very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many great diving tools. GodX Anime just threatening that dive. Volibear Ultimate is such a strong tool here. They have to respect it.
They're already going to be picking up the first inhibitor. There's no response coming through. There can't be a response from AAA, but there's the current call. They're going in. The Encore finds 3. They're trying to dive through, but the Zyra stops them in their tracks. Can the Requiem do anything? They don't have any damage. They only pick up Bill the Pony, and they get completely aced as we see Wash turn around everything. They come alive in the mid game, and they're going to take down AAA.
And Wash, just like that, break that loss streak, show us the strength of the team that everyone had pegged as one of the top 2 teams in the league at the beginning of the season. With a 12-0 perfect game from Erebus, we're seeing this team do so much better in week 2.
Okay, so great turnaround coming through from Wash, but it wasn't necessarily the worst performance we've seen from AAA. They were doing quite well early on in the game. There was just a collapse coming out from them as every single lane got attacked at the same time. They lost in the top lane, they lost in the bottom lane, and then they were too desperate to try and make things happen, continuously getting caught out by Wash, and that will allow Erebus and friends to take down the Nexus and find another win.
Right, but right now, you know, you have to ask yourself, right, how do Wash feel about that win, right? You know, it's like, okay, well, you know, we might have been playing into a AAA with a sub, but that's the first win of the season. That's gotta feel good.
It's gotta feel good. And as we start looking at the MVP voting, I know you guys are doing that in Twitch chat. I gotta say, if you pick anybody of Pure Llama, Erebus, and Bill the Pony, I'm all here for it, right? The way that they were working as a total unit was a big part of the way that they were actually able to find success. Any one of these players could not have done what they did by themselves. They needed the other 2 around them. And so we just got to see, this was the first time I watched a Wash game where I felt as though every single player on the team agreed on what their job was on the team. And that was a criticism I had of them in the first week. They weren't doing that. To see this big turnaround in their first game against one of these teams that we were expecting to be top half of the league is a great turnaround for them.
All right. And right now that I don't believe that we're doing spectator mode anymore, so just tune in and we'll have an interview in just a bit, I believe.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here. We are able to do interviews now. It's fantastic for you to be able to hear my voice the first time this season. I've gone ahead and stepped in for Edgeworth as far as the Heroic League, so fantastic to be here. But that's enough about me and FOF. Let's go ahead and talk about our winners today. Team Wash, we have Erebus here with us today. How does it feel to take your win today?
It feels a lot better than losing two for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. And this is the second interview. Some people were able to go ahead and peek it early, but in a moment we'll be playing the check-in of the video that was produced. So go ahead and stick around after this interview for that. But yeah, so go ahead and tell me, what's different? How do you feel compared to your week 1 performance moving into week 2? What'd you guys do different?
Week one we pulled a wash. Last season we didn't practice. We didn't have a scrim. We didn't do flex. We just kind of sent it. It worked out okay because we had a kind of innate synergy amongst friends. Bill and Llama being added in, there's definitely different play styles, and it definitely didn't work just kind of doing random stuff. So we actually ended up scrimming against Yubi, which helped a lot. Shout out to Yubi for kind of coming together last second to help us out with that. And then Civilox specifically has really been going over a lot of stuff with us, along with Brendan, but Civilox had a lot of really useful insight into how we should be playing, so it helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows in your match. You guys were able to really, put a lot of pressure and, get a lot of those dragons. We didn't have to see 7 this time, so thank you for that and respecting the schedule. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, you want to tell us a little bit, what's difference in your comms? Because it definitely seemed like your macro was at a whole different level today because of it.
We took Adderall this time.
Oh, okay. Wasn't ready.
So yeah, we were more talkative. We kind of used to last week again, we didn't really talk much. We got down really early, really quick, and I think we got a little demoralized. That usually doesn't happen because we play scaling comps, but we just didn't really see an in a lot of the time. This one we made sure we were being very proactive. The homies over at RLS told us we should pretty much be saying everything we're doing for the most part, so we started doing that as well.
Okay, I hear you. And just looks like you had a commanding lead. I'm trying to check at the scoreboard real quick before I say it, but yeah, you went 12-0-14. So your damage was the second highest in the game, only to PJ Salt, which was impressive. But how does it feel to have a perfect game, especially with that good of a KD80 line?
It feels pretty good. It's not gonna feel bad, right? It felt really good. I think having 0 deaths is more indicative of the team playing super well. I was very happy I got the damage out that I did, and Jin with an early lead is pretty oppressive, especially into their team comp, right? They don't have anybody that's stacking armor at the point in the game that they are, so I have 690 AD at the end of the game, and it's 60% crit with Elder Dragon and Baron. It's just pretty gross. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal, but really well played. We're going to go ahead and be stepping away here in just a moment, but before that, I do want to get your thoughts on the next match. We're going to be looking at Art of War versus INT. Any hot takes, and how do you think that match is going to end?
So I don't know anything about INT. They seem like really cool guys. They seem like they kind of have the old Wash dynamic of just a bunch of friends playing together, but they kind of do it a little bit better than we did. AWE, I really like O'Reary and Letters. I think they're awesome. Letters is my favorite player in the league, personally. I really hope AWE wins. I think it's going to be a really, really good match regardless.
Perfect. Well, you heard it there from Wash. Congratulations once again on your victory. Go ahead, chat, if you haven't already, to go ahead and be voting for your MVP vote. All the players really appreciate it. Their egos are really all about it. And with that, we'll be stepping away, going to intermission, and we'll be getting ready for Game 2 for Art of War versus INT. Don't go anywhere.
Since you were